Hi, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and I'm here with Shad. And Shad is somebody I know IRL in real life. That's right, I actually have friends in real life. And Shad is also one of the very first famous people ever. I believe you were the second or
Yeah,
the first, or the very first.
first. I think I was the very first.
You're the very first.
The
No,
very
you
first
actually
real.
you're the second because International Delight and Pucker Tart Lemon Squeeze were the first.
Right.
Yeah. You forgot about that day they stopped by to do an interview. So, Shad, one thing I did not do at all the first time we talked, which was quite a while ago, we talked about relationship stuff mostly, is
Yeah,
is to talk with you about to do any sort of personality typing on you. I haven't done any. I don't know what personality type you are, and I'd like to explore that a little bit. I've been doing a lot of that on YouTube, so I have a little bit of
okay.
experience with it now.
Yeah. I've noticed that you've been really delving into that a bit.
Well, it gets search results. You know, people search for that stuff. So, but it's also interesting. I think it actually reflects really well the way human beings interact with the world. So, okay, my first
I
question:
remain skeptical.
you
You know
remain
that.
you remain skeptical. Well, shocking. You skeptical, shocking. Okay. So I want to ask about the following question. Let me
Yeah.
open it. I have this document of questions I'm going to open up. All right.
Okay.
So, first question: would you rather share a delightful meal with a friend or team up for an engaging hobby project, assuming each activity costs the same in time and money?
I think I'd go for the hobby.
Okay. What sort of hobby project would you like that to be? What if it were if you had to choose between building a table or painting a painting or gardening in the garden? What would it be?
Hmm.
Painting?
I like all three of. I like all three of those. So it's hard to say. I mean, it really depends on the person that I'm teaming up with. I don't know if there's an answer to that, but if I had to be the one to make the choice, probably gardening.
Okay. Um, you feel like cooking dinner for you and a friend. The meal will take 20 total steps and take 2 hours to complete. Would you rather the steps be front loaded, that is, say you have to do all 20 steps at the beginning, or would you rather they be spread out across the 2 hours?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question one more time.
You're going to make a meal. It takes 20 steps in the
Oh,
recipe. Do you want the recipe to
making a
require
meal.
you to do all the 20 steps and then turn on the fire and then just let it sit for a couple hours? Or do you want the 20 steps to be spread out throughout the 2 hours?
I probably would rather do it all up front and then turn on the fire and let it cook.
Okay. Um, would you rather have too many cats or too few?
Hmm. I would say too few.
Would you rather have too many eggs or too few?
Too many.
Too many? Okay. Um, if you go into a room and you notice that a clock, a mantelpiece clock, is precariously on the edge of the mantle, and that you're worried because somebody's standing underneath it, and it could fall. I mean, it hasn't fallen yet, obviously, so maybe it won't fall, but it could. It looks precarious from where you're standing. You also notice there's a woman crying quietly in the corner of this room, along with several other people who are chatting amicably with one another. Um, what do you think is the more important issue? Or which one do you deal with first? Or do you deal with one of them not at all?
The woman crying. If I were to deal with one or the other, I mean, wow, it's a really There's like so little information to go on. I wouldn't require more information to really say for sure, but I like to say that I'm concerned about people and how their state of mind, how they feel at any given moment. I think if I saw a woman, do I necessarily know the woman or not?
I don't know. How many different ways can you talk about the possibility? How many different possible things can you come up with for why she's crying in the corner or what's going on in that room or anything?
How many possible reasons? I mean, I'm not really interested in the possibilities. I'm just interested in the one that's causing it. So I guess I'd probably go ask, hey, is there anything I can do? What's the problem?
All right, your audio on that last little chunk, last 10 seconds or so, was kind of garbled. Can you repeat that?
Now I think that I would probably go up to the woman and ask her, what's wrong, or is there anything I can do to help?
She says, "What's wrong to you? What's wrong? Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious what's wrong? Are you teasing me?" That's what she says. What do you say in response?
No, I'm not teasing you. There might be a problem, so I thought I'd ask.
Are you trying to say you can't tell what's wrong? You can't see with your own eyes?
Nope, I cannot.
It's interesting. Okay. So I don't know what's wrong with her. She's got some sort of problem though. But anyway,
I could
while
see
you're
you
over
being
there,
sad.
while you're over there, and
It's
you're
not
talking to her about this, the mantelpiece falls on the guy's head, and he collapses to the ground in a heap, unconscious.
okay.
And the lady said, "See, that's what's wrong. Nobody was dealing with that mantelpiece clock. It was
Right.
about to fall over. I could see that clear as day, but I couldn't say anything. I'm sworn to silence about clocks."
Interesting.
Now, what do you think?
What do I say to that? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like what do
Little
you
garbled.
do? You feel guilty that you didn't get the clock? No, you still feel like you made the right call.
I haven't made the call that I made,
Do you?
whether it was wrong or right. I don't think there's a true answer to that.
Okay. Do you think it's possible to come up with a situation where you do have to make a single choice between two dichotomous options, and one of them is clearly the right choice, one of them is the wrong choice?
Do I think it's possible?
Yeah. Can you come up with a scenario in which such a
That's completely one that's completely ambiguous, where
one that you're more happy with that forces you to make a choice? Or do you think reality doesn't play out like that? You might think that. I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. I'm not sure that it does. I mean, reality is one thing. It's my perception of the situation. So, I mean, perhaps I can't. I don't know.
Can you describe your own feelings? Let's say you go to school, your kid's school, and you see them, like, I don't know, you see one of them perform in some sort of school play, and your kid, like, kills it. What are you feeling? Are you feeling a lot, or what's going on with you emotionally?
Um, I would feel excited for them, happy for them that hopefully they're feeling the same way that I would perceive them as feeling.
Do you think you're
But
good at reading other people's emotions?
I'm sorry.
Do you think you're good at reading other people's emotions?
Mm, sometimes not so much. Sometimes
Um, would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
introvert.
Yeah, me too, for sure. I mean, I didn't have any real doubt about that, but it's always
About
interesting.
me,
Yeah, about
that
you
was
being an
your.
introvert. You're definitely an introvert. I mean,
I'm fully an introvert. Yeah.
what if you were to be on your deathbed and you're like, ah, good, I did it. I lived the perfect life. I'm ready to die now. I've accomplished everything that needs to be accomplished. I fulfilled my purpose in life. What would that look like? What would you have done? How would you have lived if you reached your deathbed with that?
Hmm. I think that if I successfully felt like I made my family happy through my actions, my family was happy, was there,
Um,
and my friends. You know, I mean, like that's kind of like what I try to do. I try to make sure that if I can help somebody do something they need done, then I help them do it. And you know, I don't want anything back in return, really.
so making your kids and your wife happy with stuff that you've done.
Well, I can't make them happy. I think that if I see that there's a need for something to be done, or there's a struggle being had with something they're trying to accomplish, if I can help in any way, I will do that. And then after give my help, success is achieved, then I feel happy.
I see. Last time we talked, you mentioned it was difficult to make your wife happy. Now, first of all, let me just say, it seems obvious that we can make people unhappy if we were to intentionally try to do that. So I don't understand why it would necessarily be the case that we couldn't make people happy. We can certainly behave in ways that are conducive to them becoming happy. But anyway, um, what do you have any? How's that working out? Is she a little easier to please now than she used to be, or is it still the same situation, or what?
Such a hard question to answer. It depends. I mean, sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not. Sometimes I totally interpret it the wrong way, and do the wrong thing, or don't do something that afterwards I would say, like, Jesus, if I had just done that, maybe it would have things would have been better. But you know,
Do you think
so
both people in the
so I do that.
relationship are equally fair?
So I think it's fair.
Do you think that
Go for it.
both people in the relationship behave equally fairly in regards to the relationship?
Is that important or is that true?
Do you-
Or I'm not sure what's the
I'm
question.
asking you if you believe that uh, that number. Well, I like the question of is it as important. So that's the second question. But the first question is, do you feel as though you have approximately equal fairness with each other? And then second, is that important?
No and no.
Can you expand on that a bit?
um, do we put the same amount of effort toward the same thing? Not necessarily. Like if my goal is to make the other person happy, um, I'm not sure that's always the goal on the other end, but uh, is that important? I don't think so. I mean, I didn't expect when I do things like that. I didn't expect things so. Um, maybe that's selfish. I don't know.
So do you feel you're less fair
Do I feel I'm less fair?
than she, or vice versa?
I don't know. I never really thought about it. I would if I was given the time to think about it. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I
I'd
think that
suggest that if you're not thinking about it much, if you're not feeling as though injustice is occurring one way or the other,
yeah, I don't feel like there's an injustice at all going on. I just you know it gives
right?
me something to do. I guess.
Gives you something to do? What? Please your wife? Make her happy or what?
Sure.
You cut out there. You said yes or what? I'm sorry.
I said sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Um, how do you think you'll feel about your relationships in 5 years?
I don't know if I go back 5 years ago. Has it changed? I would say probably not. So I doubt that it would be much different than it is now.
What sort of things do you look forward to? Like, if say something's coming up in 2 weeks and you're excited about it and happy about it, what might that thing be?
Um, Nothing really. I don't look into the future much. I
You
just
don't
kind of
look.
take it as it comes.
You don't look in the future. You just kind of take it as it comes. Okay, cool. Um,
So I guess I look forward to my tax return coming back. I guess
you look
because
forward to your
maybe
what?
it'll fix our tax return because it'll alleviate our ability to pay off some debt that we have and things like that. I mean that's simple things. Not I mean there's not anything that I'm finding in the future that I'm looking forward to. But not much of a planner.
Right. Okay. Um, now, not that long ago, maybe a couple years ago or so, you transitioned from, I guess you'd say, a religious sort of worldview into a non-religious one. Would you say that's a fair description of it?
I'm sorry. Um, I don't think that's true. I I grew up in a religious household, but I never had that war.
Okay, well,
That
okay, my bad for that. Let me reposition it as um, you began taking an active interest in
atheism.
atheism, right?
Yes, yes.
So
I became more vocal. I kind of came out of the closet, so to speak. I mean,
came
that's the
out of
best
the
way to describe
closet.
it.
Interesting. And did you find that that was a way of understanding the world better than you had before, or what did that give you? Do you feel?
It liberated me a little bit because I was able to vocalize my feelings about certain things without having to just not say something. You know what I mean? Like I was able to put posts on Facebook or whatever it was at the time that I wanted to do um, in regards to exposing myself as an atheist
Hmm.
and not worry about my family's response to it. You know, at some point I didn't care anymore.
Right. Um, and were they upset?
I think so, but I have to say I was really a little bit disappointed in the overall response being kind of just silent. But
Disinterested?
actually, kind of, I got a little, yeah, well, I got a little bit of a passive aggressive type of thing, you know, like where my parents would, or I was, shouldn't say my parents. My mom, not so much. My dad, you know, he was the more hardcore one, and overall, anyway. But he, would make a point of like if we were in a public place, like praying before we ate and stuff like that. And it was just really uncomfortable. And he never was really like that before, you know. I mean, he just like prayed himself, but then he made it a whole thing of like, oh, we have to hold hands around the table and like pray out loud and all this stuff. It's like, really, we have to do this.
You should have just been like,
So
well, I'm happy to participate in this, but I should warn you, I have a lot of poop on my hands right now.
you have a lot of what?
I have a lot of poop on my hands.
And you're holding your beard.
Right. Well, I don't currently. I'm saying that's what you tell them when they ask for you to hold hands and pray. You say, "Oh, sure,
Uh,
I'd love to. I do have a lot of poop on my hands, but I know that our religion comes first. Grab on." and see
Yeah,
how much
but
they love their
I
religion.
learned to live with it. I don't confront them with it.
Yeah, there's no
Um,
reason to.
and the last time that I had a conversation with my dad, he said that he prays for me all the time. He goes, I know you don't believe in that stuff, but you know, I do it anyway. And I said, well, I appreciate the sentiment. I'm glad you're thinking about me in a positive way. And his response was, well, what did he say? He said, well, I've always believed that it's better to believe in a God and be right when you die than not believe and then be wrong. And my response to him, which he just kind of brushed off and hung up, was, so just pick one and go with it. And I didn't really,
You turned sideways all of a sudden. I don't know why.
oh, I don't know. I didn't turn my phone. I see my boxes like
Can you can you
long
turn it
ways.
now? Can
No,
you turn it the other way now so that you're back upright? There you go. All right,
oh,
cool.
interesting.
Um,
All right.
so okay, well, I have a couple theories about your type, but I think I want to ask a couple more questions here. I'm looking at this thing here, and are you familiar? How familiar are you with this model, this cognitive function model, Shad?
I'm somewhat familiar with it.
Okay. Do you have a type that you've self-identified as already?
No, not one particular one. I've taken the test a few times,
Okay.
and
Well,
it was different. So I don't know.
all right. Well, I think you are ISFP. That's what I think. I think you're an
Okay.
ISFP because the stack for ISFP is FISENITE. Now, the FI thing, when you talked about doing something for your family, and then I asked you, well, like, what do what makes you happy or feel good? You feel good for the other people when they're happy, that sort of thing. But I see
Right.
that as fundamentally a feelings driven um, worldview. The reason I would say you're ISFP mostly, the biggest reason is you're definitely NI, not NE, is my take on that. When you said you're not interested in the possibilities, you're interested in the one correct answer, that's a very NI response. Whereas somebody like me who leads with NE is going to be very possibility oriented. And NI is going to be very finality oriented. NI is a discovered truth rather than created truth kind of a function.
That's
SE,
funny because I actually don't believe in a overall truth answer to anything.
well,
That's interesting.
here's the thing about
I
that.
could,
When I say it correlates with a discovered truth, I think that people might hold as self-evident discovered truth, for example, the notion that there's not any single true answer to anything. I mean, I think that the orientation to truth is something that's beyond, it's not conscious. I think we have a subconscious orientation to truth that's either aligns with discovered truth or created truth, and it doesn't so much have to do with our intellectual position on it, which is what you're stating right there, because our intellectual position on it is basically an argument. You're saying I'm not going to stand behind any weak arguments, and I've discovered that finality in a lot of things, strong positions constitute a weaker argument because it's easier to disrupt than it is to establish. But that doesn't mean necessarily that you don't have a relationship with truth that favors the discovered form of truth. And I think that's indicative of the fact that you're looking for the right answer. For things that do have a right answer, you're only interested in the right answer. You're not interested in the possibilities as a game, per se. You're more pragmatic than that in some sense, right?
I suppose.
But that's based on the answers to
I want to
this. I don't know if that's
be as
necessarily
close.
true.
I want to be as close to the truth as I can get. Um, but I I think this has changed for me fairly recently. Though I mean, I feel like um, exploring cognitive dissonance and biases and things like that has allowed me to take a step back sometimes and be like, wow, there's like other possibilities here. Like I think I do try to do that. It's something I'm still working on because I do catch myself not doing it sometimes, and I'm just like, look at me, I'm doing what I don't want to do, but uh, I'm closing my mind to this path over here that might have some fruit. I don't know, but it's something I'm working on. It's been
That's
an
what I mean.
interesting.
I am not. This is the thing I want to stress. I don't think that anybody needs to work on themselves in regards to cognitive functions. I think that one needs to sort of embrace the ones that you have, whatever they are, and exercise those strengths. So I think there's another possibility that you're ISFJ. ISFJ would be. Are you somebody who's more likely to break up with somebody or be broken up with?
Be broken up with.
Do you find it difficult to leave a relationship? In
Mm, Not if I sense that the other person doesn't want to be in it.
Okay, I think you might be ISFJ. Was the SI is the dominant slot? I don't know about that. Are you? Do you like to have all your shit, like your little objects, fit in a nice, neat box and be put away neatly?
Yes,
You
but
do.
I don't always practice that. But when I have it that way, I'm happy. Like it makes me feel better. But
Okay.
I don't pursue it heavily. Like I'm just, most of the time I shit's in disarray, and then I'll spend a day cleaning everything, and then I feel really good. Like, oh wow, it feels so much better to have everything in its place where it should be. But for the most part, I don't really recommend
Hmm. You're a conundrum. What are you thinking about as you're going about your day? As you're walking around the house, what are you thinking about? Or what's happening in your head?
it. That's hard to say. I mean, it's any number of things. Sometimes I have a song stuck in my head. Sometimes I'm thinking about an argument I had and why it went the way it went. Sometimes I feel like, um, well, for the last few days I've been okay. So maybe this will be interesting to you or to the topic. Um, I am on at least a 1 week hiatus from work. I went back to work at the theater um, where I used to work a long time ago,
Interesting.
and they started showing a film called Vax.
Or
It's
what?
an anti-vax. It's called Vax. It's an anti-vaccination film. And in protest, I told my theater to take me off the schedule because that basically pissed me off that they have that screening at the theater. Um, I did a bunch of research into the topic of that particular film, and I found that they're basically just massaging the data and manipulating the people that watch it to see it through their filter. I actually was able to be in a Q&A with the director, who happened to be Andrew Wakefield, the guy who did the original study, claiming that there was a link between vaccines and autism, which is interesting. Um, and the whole time, everything that came out of their mouth was basically, "Don't think for yourself, just think the way we think." And go to this website that has all the information. We're not going to publish any of ours because research papers are hard for people to understand, and you guys wouldn't understand it. Just listen to us. We know what we're talking about. And the funny thing to me is that no one in the audience picked up on it. The whole time I'm like shaking. I actually videotaped the whole Q&A session with both. Uh, there was one today, actually, with the last one, and one yesterday. And the first day they were basically patronizing everybody in the crowd by saying you wouldn't understand our data that we use to make this film, so we're not going to publish it. And then today they're basically saying that there's two different types of science. There's our science, which is good, and then there's everyone else's science, which is bullshit. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, well, there's only one type of science. Whether you do it right or wrong, your peers are going to flesh it out, and science works that way, and that's why it's successful.
Okay.
But no one in the anyway. So
I think you're ISTP. That's what I've decided. ISTP.
is this the third one now that you've assigned?
Huh? This is the third
Is
one
this the
I've
third
chosen. No, I went back and forth between a couple different possibilities. I was sort of exploring them, but I've settled on my
one?
answer.
Okay.
I'm going with ISTP.
For what reason?
Well, um, because first of all, you're prioritizing and not even considering the social impacts of this thing, right? Like, um, well, they're wrong about it causing autism. You are objecting to them being patronizing, but you are saying, um,
All I asked, well, all I wanted to see from them was to post their information that they used to make the film.
sure,
But their responses was just watch the film. And I said, well, not everyone can watch the film. And, it's a limited screening. There's only like a few venues that are willing to play it. And so opening up their source data on a website or something similar to me would not only just bolster their argument, but it would also give people who aren't able to go to the film access to the information.
okay. How do you reconcile this with your notion that there's not one true answer? You seem pretty convinced about the truth of your position on this.
No, the only thing that I'm convinced of is that if they post their data, that people will be able to see it for what it is rather than through their lens. That's that's neither true nor false. It's just
Well,
the process is better.
okay, but you're saying it's better because why? And why is it better that they post their data and their process?
Because it allows people to make their own decisions. And basically their response is that no, it's better to see it through our filter because we know what we're doing. Which I
But
think is
Shad,
good.
if I were to say to you something like, I made a film that says, it's called "Don't Throw Potatoes." You might put someone's eye out, and it's a video that's all about how potato throwing is dangerous and how people shouldn't do it and how there's a risk for potatoes to put someone's eye out. Um, I don't think you'd be interested in hearing my data, right? Or don't kids? If my video was entitled "Kids Shouldn't Throw Pointy Sticks at Each Other's Faces."
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. Okay, because this came up a few times just talking to people that I work with. I don't care if you have an idea that is bad, as long as it doesn't harm other people or have potential harm to other people. Have the potential to harm other people. Whereas in this case, I feel like there is great potential for harm to other people if you follow the ideas that are being portrayed by people making the film. And the
Okay,
fact that
but what if I were to say?
the
Well, what if you were to argue this? That
okay.
while they're totally wrong about vaccines causing illnesses, it has
Well,
it. But
I
let
don't know that they're wrong.
but let's just say they are. That
Okay.
that in the process of being wrong, and they do. You say they're doing harm, right? They're only doing harm if they're
Well,
wrong, right?
potentially, if they're right, then
And they're not doing harm, are they? Or are they?
well, harm will still be done. If they're right, then we basically have to roll everything back to allow people to possibly have measles or whatever disease that the vaccines are supposedly protecting against. So either way, harm is going to be done. But if they're right, and we know that we can reverse autism by taking away vaccines, then we have to measure whether or not we think that that's a better choice to make. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Okay.
All I'm interested in is whether or not they use the right process to come to their conclusion.
Okay, fine.
They definitely have a conclusion that they're presenting, and I just don't agree with their methodology.
Okay, well, fine. So then, at that point, you're sort of arguing that it causes harms to engage in the wrong approach to discourse. That is to say, I think the strongest argument would be they're engaging in harms by obfuscating and hiding information from people.
Right. Well, that's my worry. But if that doesn't turn out to be the case, I mean, I just want true and honest answers from them when I see the right questions being asked. The answers that I see that give are obfuscated.
It drives me nuts too. That shit drives me crazy too, man. It drives me fucking crazy when people don't answer the question.
Right.
My opinion.
Hope I'm not doing that to you, because I always try to be as honest as I can.
No. I'm saying no. I'm not talking about you at all. I'm talking about policy positions or something. When people maintain a given position and you ask them questions about it, they can't answer it. You make arguments against their position as to why it's not a very strong position, and they can't answer any of them. They don't have any answers, and then they continue to maintain the same position. It's fucking frustrating.
Right.
But I don't really have any care or opinion about the issue you're talking about. Like, I'm not saying either way about it. I'm just asking what your thinking on it is. I've come to a new conclusion about what type you are, though, having talked to you some more.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get off track. That's the main thing that is going on in my head currently, because you asked what I think about day to day. And
right, well, sure.
Where I'm at.
That's a good answer. I appreciate it. It's very informative. No, it's really informative. Because to me, I mean, do you want to have a model do you want to have it all figured out at some point? Is that your whole hope? Like, would you like to understand all these things, or what?
No, I just want to understand what I can understand. And I'm okay with not knowing things. Because I don't want to say that I have the answer to something that I don't really have the answer to. I'm interested in if I can give information, I'll give it as best I can. But if I can get information, I'll get it as long as I can hash it out and make sure that it's trustworthy. I try to do that anyway. I don't always do it. Sometimes I just accept stuff, and then later on I realize that was dumb. But
you're a little bit tough. You're a tough one, Shad. You're a tough one to figure. You're hard to figure. I'm trying to figure you right now, and I'm having trouble figuring. I mean, you might be an INTP, or I think you're showing me a lot of NE. When you talk about means over ends, and you talk about when I'm like, well, they're wrong, right? And you're debating me, right? You're like, well, no, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying the process is wrong. You're trying to parse it out like that. That's very NE, which would be consistent with INTP. So, and then the SI stuff that you explained, when I talked about like your little objects, and what about your schedule? Do you keep a schedule of yourself?
No,
not really.
Terrible.
Would you
That's
be?
something
Are you
the complaint.
aspirational in that regard? Would you like to keep a better schedule? Does it seem like a good thing to do?
Eh, not necessarily. I mean, I could see where it would be helpful from time to time, but for the most part, nah, it's not something I worry too much about.
Huh.
So I feel like I feel like I remember the important stuff when I have to, but from time to time I don't, and that's when I feel like, oh, dang, I should have more of a schedule. But then I just kind of like, and
I think
maybe I'll do it for a little bit, and then I kind of fall back. I fall back to my regular way too. I'll have all these alarms set and reminders on my phone and stuff on my calendar, and then I realize, I'm remembering all this stuff before I even check my calendar. So then I start putting stuff in my calendar, and then I start forgetting stuff. It's kind of a funny cycle. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Okay. Well, Shad, you are a mystery, but I think I'm gonna revoke my last final answer and give a new final answer. I think I'm gonna go INTP, but I'm hopeful that my viewers will explain to me why I'm getting all these contradictory answers, how this makes sense. You have a lot of I think you're definitely any, and I think it's reasonably high in the stack. So that'd be second or third. For second, you'd be INTP. If it were third in the stack, I don't know who has it third. Oh, those are extroverts. I don't think you're an extrovert. I'm pretty sure you're not. So, do you enjoy like do you get bored easily?
Hmm. It really depends. I mean, some things bore me easily. Some things that would be boring to most people can keep me busy for hours. Like, okay, I'll use an example just so you don't think I'm bullshitting you. Um, so I play MMORPGs a lot. If you know what that is,
Yeah, I know.
massively, yeah, multiplayer online role playing game. One of my least favorite things to do is go dungeon, grouping up with people and going into a dungeon. That's difficult to do on your own, or impossible to do on your own. I like to do things like gather resources, which is something that people find unbelievably boring. Which is weird. I mean, but I do enjoy other things. Like I'm playing a game right now called Guild Wars 2, and one of my favorite things to do in that game is jumping puzzles, which to me, the reward is more than the treasure that you get at the end of it. So like, there's basically pathways where you have to like jump from place to place and try to get to things that people wouldn't normally just be able to get to. And they have various ones all throughout the game that you have to kind of discover, or you have to go online and look for a list of where these are. And enjoy doing those, the reward is very minimal.
Interesting.
But second to that, I like gathering resources for crafting things that I never really end up crafting. I just gather a shitload of resources.
But you could craft it if you wanted to.
I could, yeah. I mean, I do a little bit of crafting here and there, but once I make the item that I want, I don't really use it. I don't know. It just kind of sits in my bank. Kind of stupid, but it is what it is.
Right, it's entertainment.
So I don't get bored the same way that other people get bored, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I'm going between ISTP and INTP. I was leaning towards INTP. I just hear too much extroverted intuition in this. So, anything else you'd like to say about type? What have you shown? What have you gotten on the tests you've taken before?
I don't remember what my results were specifically. I just remember they were different. I kind
Interesting.
of I don't put a lot of weight on the test.
Well, yeah, those online tests are not very reliable because they're basically all based on Myers-Briggs tests, right? Which is not a good way to model it. Socionics is better. I think the thing to remember about personality typing, because a lot of people want to say, "Oh, well, it's not rigorous. It's not scientific. It's not an adequate model for this reason or that." The problem is, I think when people take that approach, they don't really understand the model because the model's not making as bold a claims as people tend to talk about it as making. From my understanding of it, it's simply a matter of there are 8 distinct perspectives through which one might express and prioritize certain values over others. And we tend to use 4 of the 8. I can't think of any others, really, that exist in the same taxonomy level. When I say you've got 8 possible functions in terms of human behavior, in terms of how humans interact with each other, and they are, I'll read them to you right now. Put this up here. Ciao. They are proceed, get, push, disrupt, stay, regulate, render, and finalize. Which is to say, you either are focused on, there's only a certain number of environments in the world for us, right? There's abstract models not involving actual living human beings. There's groups of other human beings. There's single one-on-one relationships with other human beings. And, you know, there's yourself. And that's the world, more or less. There's physical objects. And there are also time objects, that is to say, schedules and stuff like that. Time objects, schedules, and stuff like that is introverted sensing. And physical objects in the world, extroverted sensing. If we're talking about introverted and extroverted thinking, it's a matter of being pragmatic or conditional, basically. Which do you prioritize? Are you prioritizing the actual outcome of something? You want to achieve a certain goal? Or are you prioritizing the modeling process? Which is to say, I want my abstractions to be consistent with each other. It doesn't really matter so much that they be practical. Which is the mindset? Is it extroverted thinking or introverted? Are you doing your thinking on the outside world, or are you doing it all internally and not really expecting it to manifest externally? And then, as far as intuition goes, well, let's skip that one and go to feelings. Extrovert feeling, and this is very clear if you observe other people, they are going to be either getting their payoff from other people's feelings or from their own feelings. So, somebody who leads with extroverted feeling, like Abraham, he's all about the group. He's all about talking to other people all the time, and he's very attentive to other people's emotions and reads people really, really well. With me in the third slot, I'm not very good at it, but I'm okay with groups. I'm good with groups. I'm not necessarily good one-on-one. They say that ENTPs understand how other people in a group, how groups' emotions are managing, but may not have a clear understanding of how others feel about them. This would be the case because with FE in the third slot, I only I don't use it as frequently, right? It's a matter of frequency of usage. You have a certain number of hours in the day, and you use certain perspectives more than others. I seem to be frozen here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got your video back. I hear your video going on and on.
Okay, let me pause it. That's the thing. It's like if you tell me any sort of response to that, you might say, "Well, that's not true because blah 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 blah," and I would say, "Well, you're utilizing TI there to analyze it for inconsistencies, and the fact that you're choosing to analyze it for inconsistencies suggests to me that you're an extroverted intuitor. An introverted intuitor would be more likely to analyze it for elements of truth or for utility. So it's like if I say when you don't, your resistance to this model is common amongst NTs. If you are an INTP, that would be consistent with being an INTP. It's to have resistance to the model. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's hard to deny that people do prioritize some perspectives over others. That people do attend to certain manners of valuing and thinking about things over others. Yes? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's black and white, but I think that in different situations that's true.
Okay, but do
But
you
not.
think you have infinite hours?
I'm sorry.
Do you have infinite hours?
No.
So in any given day, would you say that
Of course I have.
you spend just as much time considering how your own feelings are about various events in your life as you do considering whether this or that is logically consistent with each other?
I I go back and forth. I don't know. I kind
So,
of feel like I
but so
do
are you
both.
telling me? But are you telling me you go back
Not
and
not at
forth?
not. I
But
kind of feel
look,
like I'm on a.
okay, but if we take a chunk of your life away and say, okay, here's 1 year, let's analyze it. You didn't spend exactly equal amount of time prioritizing all different things. You didn't spend
No.
an equal portion of time watching Real Housewives because you enjoy the extroverted feeling displays that much, right? When you consume media, you don't consume things randomly. You don't go, oh, I'm going to watch this show that's really sappy and emotional. Then I'm going to watch this that's really practical, how to. Then I'm going to watch this one that just shows people surfing and going, yar. Then I'm going to watch this one that's about, you know, meditation and finding your core values. Then I'm going to watch this one that's about blah, 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 blah. You don't. You prefer certain subjects over others, unavoidably so. And you only have a finite number of hours, so we can measure which ones you prefer if we wanted to.
Sure.
All right, so given that, then it's fair to say that regardless of, and nobody, I don't believe that anybody is unable to use any of the cognitive functions. I think we all use all 8 perspectives, but
Mm-hmm.
they aren't tools that we're practiced in if we're not practiced in them. And so, as an extroverted intuitor, right now, I'm displaying 2 things. I'm displaying my extroverted intuition, which is a disruptive thing, which says I'm sensing some arguments here that I want to disrupt on the part of Shad, and then I'm using TI to do the analysis and the explication of that. In response, in your like, well, but well, blah, 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 that's going TI first, then NE, which is you're not really interested necessarily in the battle, but you're not interested at all in allowing what you might consider to be an inconsistent logical model or a model that's logically inconsistent to persist unchallenged. No reply to that.
So I was waiting for you to say more.
Well, anyway, the point is, I think it's a good model. I think if you think about it some more and you go, all right, well, look, I've got, what am I doing right now? It's like there's a certain amount of self evaluation that requires a certain distance. Like you have to go, okay, well, the fact is, it's just like a right handed, left handed thing. If you go up to the door, you don't use both your hands equally, you use one habitually. Or if you go to write something down, you use the one hand habitually. It doesn't mean you can't use your left hand. It just means, are you left-handed?
No.
It doesn't mean you can't use your left hand. It just means you're not practicing using it. And if you are somebody who has grown up with extroverted sensing as your dominant function, then you're walking through the world sort of looking at what's happening right in front of you. You're interested in moving through the world as an object in space. You're interested in sports and stuff a lot. You you find your values and stuff and being healthy and getting out there and doing stuff and blah, 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 blah. That's your SE kind of a thing, right? If that's a dominant function. So it makes sense then if somebody's practiced a lot in that, thinking of the world in that way, and grew up and sort of embraced that perspective very early on in life and pursued it, that they're not going to then spend a lot of time um, using something like introverted thinking necessarily, but more likely they're not going to use a lot of time using introverted sensing. If they're focused on the external world and themselves as an object in space and the other objects in space, then they're not focused on themselves as an object in time and the other objects in time, like schedules and other time objects. So it makes sense that they'd be exclusive of each other as perspectives. Another thing that would make sense is that if you have SE, your dominant extroverted sensing function, as a perceiving approach, then you would have introverted intuition as a inverse proportional to it. To the extent that you're perceiving things internally is inversely proportional to the extent that you're perceiving them externally. They're not exclusive like SE and SI are. But anyway, these things would make good sense. They make good sense if you consider it as the fact that you have to make a choice in any given situation. And your choices are as much algorithmic as they are anything. And that free will really comes into play when one actively looks at one's own algorithmic habits and when one is willing to attempt to experience some of those other perspectives, if only for the purpose of knowing more, being more broadly correct, or whatever other reason.
Okay.
You're going to win the introverted battle here, Shad.
I'm telling you, that's what I am. I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, anyway, let's stop this video. Thank you very much for being a guest on Talk with Famous People. I'm going to stop the video right now, and then we can chat a little bit more. Thanks for watching, everybody. Famous person Shad, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a reader of fine literature.